Okay, we're on. Yeah, good man, good man. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So
That's
it's funny that you said you're tired because I just took this like hot and then cold bath, and I was like, man, I'm so tired too. But I did what you did last time, and I did a little prayer session, and now I'm feeling good, man.
yeah. There's nothing like praying, man. Like really, it's man. It's almost like God has put it like in our hearts. Like we have to pray in order to. It's almost like you have to pray just for your own sanity as well. Like you're in your thirties, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly 32.
Yeah, like I'm 31 soon. It's like, man, I've spent too much time on this planet. Like the prey really it really grounds you, like makes you just yeah, it helps you so much just in terms of mentally. And I really feel sorry for people. They just wandering around in this on this planet without praying. And one of the
Yeah,
I was listening to an Islamic speaker, and he's talking about it's like the difference between someone who's alive and someone's dead, and it's like that. It's like that, really. Go ahead.
well, yeah. I was just gonna say it's funny that we have all these traditions or these rituals, and what I think the purpose of them originally was is just to have consistent ways to connect with God. You know what I mean? Like the praying a certain amount of times a day, all of these things, or even fasting. I feel like they were all meant to remind us of God on a consistent basis. And we've kind of lost sight of that. Sometimes we just go through the rituals or the traditions um, just to go through them, but really it's to spend time with God and to get closer to God.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's all about the remembrance, like like the word for the in Arabic, the word human uh, is called insan, and what that means is it's derived from the word to forget. So they've actually realized that human beings are they've actually been born forgetful. Like we're so forgetful. Like if we get any pleasure, if we get any blessings from God, we just forget. Like we just like we're happy for like a second, and then we forget, and then we want the
Yeah,
next thing. So the only thing that cures our sickness or forgetfulness is remembrance, remembrance of God, remembrance of like His blessings, and and even remembrance of like the devil, like just to remember like the devil's like talking to you and trying to upset you. So you have to like you have to remember these things and stay conscious in order to succeed.
yeah, definitely. And it's so funny. It's something that I realized like a week or two ago. But people often remember their pain. It's so much easier to remember the pain than it is to remember the blessings. And when we get stuck in that mindset of just trying to do things on our own or not even realizing that, our thoughts and what we think about, we do literally become. Um, yeah, it's just so interesting, man. We're more likely to remember something that hurt us 20 years ago than the blessing that we received today of just being able to wake up and, breathe this beautiful air. So it's funny. Now we always remember the negative over the positive for sure.
Yeah, man, absolutely, absolutely. Like I think that was I watched a psychology video, and it helped me a lot. And psychology, there are some truths in psychology, and what it was saying was that the way to cure your own pain was to actually like write it down and find purpose within it. And like it was a secular video, like it's trying to say like find purpose, like maybe you can like I don't know have some lame goals from that purpose, right? But but if you're religious, like God's the ultimate purpose. So when you consume pain throughout your past, just having faith in God, like just knowing that God has a purpose for, even if you don't even know what your purpose is, just having faith in God's purpose for you, for giving you that pain, is enough. So that cures that sickness as well.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's interesting. In the Bible, in Hebrews, it says, because the Lord disciplines the one that he loves. and he chastens everyone he accepts as his son. So it's like when you're growing up, I don't know what your relationship was like with your parents, but a loving parent will discipline their child and try to correct their ways. But when God does it, we get so bitter. We're like, why is this happening to me? Like, he's trying to correct us because he loves us, and he's trying to detach us from the worldly possessions, the
Yeah.
things that we think are important in this world.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I didn't. I didn't have. I have. Well, I didn't really have much discipline. I grew up without a father, so and my mom. I had an ethnic mother, and she gave me way too much love, like way too much, to the point where, um, I think that's what caused my sickness. In my later years of adulthood, is that if you get and I thought about this the other day. You know how they say like, oh, that kid's spoiled. Like I always thought like, why do they say that kid's spoiled? It's because
Yeah,
literally like too much love, too much of anything actually spoils a kid. Like it spoils the purity of the child as well. And they're not allowed they're not able to just like relax and appreciate anything. Like they get too much things, like they get too much love, they get too much things, and then they can't just be a simple pure kid, and then that affects them later in life. So like, yeah, like you were saying, like God sees that sickness in you, and he's trying to take it out of you. And then, it's not your parents' fault. They tried their best. They're unconscious as well. They didn't. It's not like they knew how to parent. And yeah, go on. What do you think?
yeah, it's so true. And in Proverbs in the Bible, it says, "Spare the rod and spoil the child." So exactly what you said. And I grew up with a single mother as well. My dad really wasn't in the picture, so I totally understand what she went through, man. Like, you're getting all that love, you're getting all that focus and your attention, but it does spoil you, definitely. Because
Yeah.
you're not, I don't know how to describe it, but there's not a reliance on God in some way in my mind. When you said that, that's kind of what came to my mind. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, like what you were saying, like I think it's common, man. I think this is common in our generation. Like God has put us all in this similar situation where our fathers, you can't blame them because they didn't have the knowledge, they weren't conscious, and they were born in a different time as well. Like our fathers were born in a different time. They had more things available to them, like economic security, and even like getting married and having a woman was so much easier. But for our generation, not only do we not have the self-discipline that our fathers were supposed to give us, but the economic times so much harder to like have a woman and support her. And then even to find a good girl is extremely difficult as well. So like we're thrusted into like a really difficult situation, and we're all extremely weak. Like we don't have any discipline. Like all of us have no discipline, and the world is so harsh and mean to us. So we're actually lucky in the sense that we actually need God because it's so chaotic, and there's no way we're gonna get out of the chaos without him.
Exactly, and that's why your page is so perfect for the times because no gratification. Like even someone on a worldly level that doesn't acknowledge God can recognize that. I saw this quote, and it basically said that all self-help is replacing the short-term gratification with delayed long-term gratification, and that makes sense, man. You can literally sum up that whole industry with that saying.
No,
You're just delaying
I hate
gratification.
it.
You're pushing off the short term, and you're making those long term goals. And any secular person, any person in the world, can understand that because there's so many options in this world. So it makes you undisciplined because it's like you're at a buffet. That's how I see the world these days. It's like we're all at a buffet and we're constantly overeating to the point where you get sick. And that's just how it is when you don't have God in your life.
It is, man. It actually is. It is sickening. I want to go on. I want to talk about that more. But there's this YouTube ad that comes on, and it just annoys me so much. You know how just when now that we have God in our lives, it's just funny how you see the secular thinking, and you just think like, how terrible their thinking is. Like, just really, I'm so grateful to God that I don't think like this anymore. Anyway, the ad goes like this. The guy starts off, and he's like, everything in life is a negotiation. You're walking down the street, it's a negotiation. You're ordering your sandwich, it's a negotiation, right? And I'm just thinking like, no, it's not. Like, everything is just reliance on God. Like, God will provide for you, and you can just relax and just remember God. And if he doesn't provide for you, then it's from his own wisdom. And, you try your best, whatever. But the secular thinkers, they're like, oh, like they're such in scarcity for their resources that they have to be like, oh, I have to negotiate. Oh, I have to backstab this person. Oh, I have to be this. I have to lie and cheat and manipulate. And it's just so awful, awful life. And
Exactly. You think you're doing it on your own, and
yeah, it's
where
awful.
does that truly get you?
It's awful, man. I was a salesman for 7 years. I did that too. I bought into like you have to be the Wolf of Wall Street guy and be persuasive and persuade people out of their money in order to succeed. And it's really just awful, awful life.
100%. And that's why it kind of comes back to, I would even say no fap. I watched your video, the no fap muscle transformation.
Oh yeah.
And I would say sexual temptation is one of the biggest obstacles that men and women have in this modern day. Pornography is free. They just give it away for free. Like, how useless is that? That they just give it away for free to hook you in and get you addicted. It's like selling drugs to kids, man. It's insane. But even
Yeah,
if someone
sad.
were to start there, I feel like it gives you the discipline to even pursue God. Because how can you say you're a man of God if you're fapping all the time? If you're literally abusing your own body, your own temple, for your own sexual gratification. Like, that is one of the most basic primal temptations that are out there right now.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not just like it's actually like the purity, like I said in my video, like the purity, it's actually destroying other qualities about the human being. Like, it's actually destroying like memory, strength, like good qualities. And like, because when I remember when I was a kid, I had a high amount of purity. I grew up religious, and then I faded. I got into science in my teenage years, and then faded away, and that's where I got lost. But I grew up religious, so I had a high level of purity, and man, I could memorize like whole poems like in just hours, and I could like write poems, and I could read like at an amazing level and learn so quickly. And then I, as I look back, like somewhere in my teenage years and my 20s, I just completely lost all that. And I can't even, like, even to this day, I can't even study for like 40 minutes without my brain like just getting fried. And that's what happens, man. Like the purity, it gives you supernatural abilities, and if you go into temptation for too long, it destroys that. It destroys those qualities that you have. Not just memorization, like strength and all those things that are given to you by God to succeed through life.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why, my page is called Monk Mode Health, because I truly believe it kind of starts with that. And then upon that one discipline, it's so much easier. One thing that I realized, I was a massage therapist before. I've done some personal training, all that type of stuff, all of the physical aspects. But it's so hard back then to get clients to actually be consistent and to believe in themselves. And if you think about it, it's because they may want to change one habit, which is exercising,
Mm.
but they're still doing all of these other things like gluttony or sexual sin, however you want to look at it, laziness. like you mentioned, the 7 deadly sins. They're still doing all of these things, and they think, but just by exercising, that it'll change their life. But no, as we've acknowledged, the only way is through God and through that sexual purity and purifying your mind and purifying your body and thinking of God. Reading spiritual scripture. That's the only way, man. And that's what I've realized in my life. So for me, I kind of realized I want to extend this monk mode thing, and I'm having hesitation, but I'm even looking for a woman now. I feel like if I completely devote my life to faith and to God and spreading the word and talking to people and traveling the world, I just think that's my purpose, man. And I have such a strong calling in my heart to do that I'm so excited every time I talk about it. But just reminding people of the purity and being able to be that light in the world is just something that's been calling me. I'm on day 42 now, and it's just like there every morning when I wake up. I just feel like that's my path, to be like this traveling monk, to remind people of God on a daily basis as my profession, if you want to call it like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, absolutely. You have to believe in yourself. Like me and you, we are lucky because we found the truth early, and like it's the truth. Like what we're doing is the truth, and the truth lies in everyone's hearts. So eventually, others are going to find it, and we're lucky that we found it early, and it's so good, man. It's so peaceful. Like the life that you can have by like fasting and remembering God. It's so peaceful. Like I could lose everything in the material world right now. It won't matter because I have fasting and God. Like because that's where my peace is. And yeah, I just just don't worry. Like you say, you're like finding a woman. I know that feeling. It can be like, I mean, every guy, every man wants that. I mean, every person wants love. Um, but I guess you just gotta have faith that this is the journey that you're on, and you have to suffer. Like if you suffer a lot, there's a bigger reward. Like God's giving you like an even bigger reward from the suffering. So um, I think, and He can't give you the reward uh, in the state that you're in now, because the suffering will actually like bring evil out of you. It'll actually make you even more humble to the point where when He does get you the reward, you'll be able to deal with it. You'll be able to handle it. Okay.
Exactly. And when I think about the long-term purpose, yeah, I've always wanted to have that family and whatnot, but I just think it would be more satisfying to be a person that completely dedicated themselves to God and introduced non-believers or people who lost their way back into the faith. Like, there's this show called Kung Fu, and basically it was about this Shaolin monk, and his temple burns down, and he kind of just walks around the United States, and he just does Kung Fu stuff. It was kind of like an action TV show, but that was one of my favorite shows, man. This guy was just a traveling monk, and he would impart his wisdom on people, and that's just how I see my life now. I just see my life as reminding people of the glory and the power of God. And, the family thing, I'm not even thinking about, because I literally think about God so much, and I'm so grateful that I started this monk mode no fap challenge, because it's only day 42 and it's completely changed my life for the better. It's insane how quick the results were and how much better I feel than I did when I started this.
Yeah, man, that's so good. I'm so happy for you, man. And I've been following along on your videos too. It's I watched the latest video you're talking about simping. And you said we've all been there, and I'm like I've been there. I remember, I remember days where like I remember just I would go to the nightclub and I would just like talk to this terrible looking girl with tattoos, and I'd be like, oh hi, what's those tattoos about? Like, I didn't give a shit about the tattoos. I was just so
right?
desperate for like female attention and potential sex that I'm talking to this girl. And I don't even care about her stupid tattoos. So, you're talking about simping and yeah, it reminded me of that time. What about you, man? Tell me yours. Like, do you have any simping stories that you went through in your youth?
Oh man, like so many. But the funny thing is, like I said in the video, I was like an alpha type of male growing up. So I always had a lot of friends. I always played sports, pretty decently good looking. I always just had confidence in myself. But then every time I would get a girlfriend, I would just turn into a simp. And I think it comes back to that, my father leaving when I was a child. So every time I would get something that I thought I loved or really liked or was into, I would just hold on to it so tight that I wasn't being that alpha male that they were initially attracted to. So it's
Yeah.
just funny for some reason. I usually just make the videos like on the fly. I wake up, I exercise. And that was the thought that came to my mind. I'm like, wow, I've literally been able to get any girl that I wanted in the past, but I haven't been able to keep them because I turned from pimp to simp. It's just crazy. But now I'm
I
at the
think
point where
I think it's okay though. I think it's okay to be a simp because like it's normal and it's like it's natural to be a simp. Like it's fine. Like God puts like love and protection and providence. That's what we want to do and that's what we want to provide. But the thing is, God doesn't give that. Like, if the woman is not a friend of God, like if she's not a believer, God doesn't let her accept that love from a man. Like God it
right,
holds the keys to love, and unless you
yeah,
have a relationship with Him, and unless you not only do you have a relationship with Him, but also you've repented from your sins, then
yeah,
God doesn't let you experience love, and He gives you the pain of not having love until you fully repented from your sins and you have a full-on relationship with Him. So, the problem isn't like you being a simp. The problem is the women either don't have a relationship with God, or maybe you haven't repented enough on your past sins that God hasn't wiped them away. So I think that's the
exactly. Because every girl that I had ever been with was not a believer. And so that didn't strengthen my faith. And obviously, being who I am, I have such a strong calling towards God that it could have never lasted. I would have been unhappy. If you are with someone and you don't even share basic values, like basic values, how are you ever going to make that last? You know that the relationship is simply just a physical attraction, which means it's simply lust, which is not love, which is not rooted in God, like you just said.
yeah, yeah. And I think we're all in the same boat here too. Anyway, like the guys, like the guy we all because we grew up with our fathers and we had a lot of love from our mothers and we only had our mothers. I think we all have that simping quality. But I
Yeah,
think we all have that feminine quality, the guys of this generation. But then inversely, I think the women also they have that masculine quality as well, like to the point where they don't know how to be submissive to a man. Like they don't know how to like surrender to God and surrender to a man. So they have that problem as well. Like, um, and God's trying to fix both of our genders in order so that we can somehow unite in marriage. And but it's gonna take a while.
100%. And the ultimate simp story is in the Bible, man. So King David, he lusted over Bathsheba, who was married to Uriah, and he sent Uriah to the front lines of the war where he got killed just so he could sleep with Bathsheba. So it shows you, man, like even
Yeah,
thousands of years ago,
I know
King
that
David,
story.
one of the historical figures, was a simp at one point.
Yeah, no, I know that story. I know that story. Like, And then what happened, like in Islamic, I don't know if it's the same for Christianity, but in the Islamic story is that once he did that, he two men came up to him with a question, like one of them had 99 sheep and one of them only had one sheep, and then
Yeah.
he gave the person with 99 sheep one sheep, the one sheep that the other man had. And then that's when he realized what he'd done. Like that's when he realized his own guilt, that he took, he's a guy that has all this like abundance, and he took from a guy that only has this one woman. And then and that's when he repented to God. And I think
Wow.
is that the same in Christianity?
Well, not that part of the story, so that's really interesting. But that makes a lot of sense, man. Like he did end up realizing, and he repented, and he was in so much grief. And his son Solomon was born through her. But I really like the Islamic telling of that because it makes it so clear cut why he would come to that realization.
Yeah, man. I mean, God, like he gives you God. The thing about God is he's so subtle. Like he gives you the way he tells you things in your life, or the way he guides you. It's so subtle that you can like if you're a believer, you will find his signs. But if you're a disbeliever, you'll completely miss them. So I don't know. There's so much times there's just creepy things that happen in my life that I'm like, that's a sign from God. Like I just know that's a sign from God, and it actually ends up being a sign and helps guides me, to be a better
Oh yeah,
person. Are you the same? Do you find things like that? Like, do you find like creepy things happening in your life where you're like, oh, that's God?
100%, man, all the time. And I think sometimes it just takes that clarity of mind to even notice them. Like I know you mentioned before that you had smoked in the past. I'm not sure about now, but for the past 3 years before I started this 90-day challenge, so I never smoked in my life until I was 28 years old. And
Hmm.
then for the next 3 years, I was smoking tobacco like on a daily basis. And things like tobacco or drinking alcohol, whatever it is, they just numb your senses. So maybe God is always giving us signs and we just don't realize. But once you have that clarity of mind, you're like, wow, the signs are so clear. You just pick up on them every day, all day.
So cool, man. Yeah, that's so cool. Oh, we're so lucky. We're so lucky that we're close to the truth, and that we're actually leading the way in the truth, because really I don't find anyone else besides you. I don't find anyone else doing this, but I know that it is going to be popular. I just know in my heart this is going to be the truth, and everyone's going to be doing it soon. So we're so lucky that we're leading the charge, and God help us, man. God give us the strength in order to spread it to other people.
Exactly. Because all these things like the gender roles going on, people are so lost. And the answer is so clear, brother. Like it is so clear, but they are just so hurt. I don't know what happened to them in the past, but they know God exists and they're just unwilling to accept it. And that's kind of how I was in my 20s. I told God straight up, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just do this thing on my own. And I went through a decade of literal hell until I came back like the prodigal son. And I was just like, you know what? I need you.
Yeah.
Please. I need you.
Yeah. Yeah, I look back on my past. I'm like, oh, I hate it. I hate all of it. Like it just, I don't even I feel like I have two lives. Like I have the life with God and the life without God. And I think about the life with God and without God, and it's just so bitter and it's just so shit. And it's just like, I hate it. Like I just hate those days. And I'm sure I had some good days in my life, but I can't even think of any anymore. I would just wish I could erase that life. But it's so good now. Thank God. Man, it's been half an hour. I think let's save some more conversation for another time. I think we got a lot of good stuff out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for setting this up, brother. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's
man.
just interesting to see the transformation in 42 days. And you're right. I haven't really met anyone like you either. And we're literally across the world from each other. So
Yeah.
God has a funny way of working. I always say God's a funny guy, makes me laugh. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. This is gonna be an interesting journey for sure. All right, Ken. I'll see you on the next show. Thanks, man.
All
Peace
right,
out.
brother.
Good luck on
Talk
your
to you soon.
good luck on your 90 days.
Yeah, God willing, bro. Thank you.
God bless.